Hello everyone and welcome to a story recap of the first quarter and opening act of the campaign, The Tyrannical Tales of Saltkeep. The purpose of this video is to give the players some clarity and revision of the madness that has happened in the last 30 odd sessions. This video will be split into chapters for ease of use. These chapters cover the prologue with the events that happened in Candlekeep, followed by the events of Red Beach, Greenest and the Dragon Raiders, Saltmarsh, the books, the Yawning Portal, and then also what is known of the characters too. Thanks to the party, the Adventurers League is now fully operational, stable, and up and running in Saltmarsh. Let's have a recap and see exactly how you managed to achieve that. About 1 year ago, the story begins during an evening in Candlekeep. A group of adventurers seeking answers were trying to get on the good side of the Avowed, which is a name for the librarians at Candlekeep, which in turn is the biggest library in the world. An earthquake happened in the library grounds, and the Candlekeep adventurers helped one of the apprentice Avowed named Radiers in investigating what exactly had happened. Through investigation, they found out the custodians, which is the name for the caretakers of Candlekeep, had been asked by someone in a dragon mask to take a special selection of books and blast them into space using an Arcane-propelled tower. The custodians were unsuccessful, as the party instead managed to re-aim the rockets into the sea before they escaped to safety. This spread the special books out far and wide. Radiers was then given the task to get the books back. He was pointed in the direction of Red Beach to seek out a man named Lord Dornwood, who was apparently already seeking rare books and tombs. A year later, a new and very diverse adventuring party had come together. This party was composed of a gnome wizard named Doric, a human rogue named Hector, a high elf monk named Himiko, a half elf fighter named Jasper, and a Yuan-Ti pureblood sorcerer named Lady Tabitha. The party met 3 individuals who were trying to set up a company called the Adventurers League. This league held promises of riches, adventures, glory, and the hope of saving the world. These 3 individuals were firstly Fizban, a mysterious wizard with his 7 canaries and non-offensive illusion and teleportation type spells. Next, an old and powerful paladin, Lord Dornwood, who acted as the leader, but through conversation was ashamed by his worshipped deity, Lathander, who was blamed by other priests and paladins for a period known as the Time of Troubles. And finally, a barbarian-type dwarf, who liked nothing better than to fight, swear, drink, and talk of dwarven legend. After further conversations, it became clear that the latter 2 had foggy memories of how they met the old wizard, which some party members became curious about. They had an airship called the High Wind that was being stocked up at Red Beach, ready to sail the world and have grand adventures. Unfortunately, the beach and surrounding woods were ambushed by some giants, goblins, and some other creatures from the depths of the sea. Most of the party rescued some books gathered so far, and then took off. However, not long after the High Wind had taken off, the ship was horrifically pulled apart by the claws of 5 different coloured dragons, claiming that Lord Dornwood cannot complete his quest. One of the party, the Ranger Cal, who was acting lookout and hornblower that day, watched the explosions in a set of heavy clouds from afar, before following tracks of other survivors down the coast. Up in the sky, with half of the ship being obliterated, that contained books, gold, supplies, and the poor ship's pilot double lock. Quick thinking brought Fizban to teleport the group and the other half of the broken ship to a farmland not far from a town called Greenest, but not before Lord Dornwood sustained a lingering, crippling and worrying wound to his leg. Noxley knew someone close by, Leosinalantha, who was studying cults in the area and had good connections, who might be able to help them begin to get the Adventurers League back up and running Before the party set out that night, the Adventurers League was officially formed. Looking for Leos and Elantha, the group headed to Greenest to discover that it was under attack by kobolds and a dragon-worshipping cult. While searching for Leosin, they decided to aid the governor of Greenest in saving people in the village. After a few successful missions, a monstrous blue dragon showed up and decimated the governor. The Adventurers League defended Greenest Keep by being a nuisance and made the dragon realise that it was not worth the effort. Before the raiders left Greenest, a blue half-dragon called Cyanrath decided to challenge one of the adventurers, Jasper, to a one-on-one. He promised to hand over some prisoners if they agreed. Jasper did agree, and even though brave, he was crushed under Cyanrath's might. However, for his heroics in saving the prisoners, which included her grandchildren, Jasper was saved by a mysterious healer of Greenest with links to a deity known as the Raven Queen. Her name was Sister Marguth. Sister Marguth rewarded Jasper and the Adventurers League with her previous home, a place called Saltkeep in the town of Saltmarsh. The group would later come back after Noxley found evidence of Leosin's whereabouts. He had been stalking the raiders. Noxley found some of Leosin's belongings and feared that he had been captured, or worse, killed. Sister Marguth of Greenest also tasked the Adventurers League with finding out some information about the dragon cult, hoping that she could get aid of one of the organisations that might help her village. The group tracked the raiders down and entered the camp under the disguise that they were also dragon cultists. They learnt of a cult leader down there called Resmir, who had set up the camp with someone called Mondath and her right-hand man, Cyanrath, taking over everyday operations of the camp. It seemed the group of cultists were gathering a hoard composing of treasure, weapons, and books for the Queen of Dragon, Tiamat, who the party later learned would come and reshape this world. The group saved Leosin and escaped back to Saltmarsh. Leosin said he would report to his contact in the Order of the Silver Gauntlet and then get back to the Adventurers League. Leosin believed that Tiamat is the worst possible darkness that could face Tyrell, and is clearly the most deadliest result of this world being in a period of change. He believes Tiamat cannot be ignored, and if not dealt with, everything would fall to ruin. He also believed the Adventurers League would be key to stopping her. Fizban agreed. With the deeds to Saltkeep, the Adventurers League began getting set up in the seaside fishing town of Saltmarsh, in which they were reunited with the Ranger Cal, who had decided to stick around. They began trying to raise money to get the keep restored, as it had been weather damaged by storms. Early on, the group met members of the council and soon learned about a large divide in the townsfolk. On one side, you had traditionalists, who liked life in Saltmarsh before an organisation called the Lord's Alliance got involved. The Lord's Alliance being a collection of armies headed by the wealthiest nobles on the Sword Coast. This group of Saltmarsh traditionalists were represented by Ida Oland, a woman with a large fishing fleet, and also Gellin Primewater, who was the owner of the biggest trading fleet and wealthiest man in Saltmarsh. Yes, before the Lord's Alliance came in, the Sea Princes, which were a group of deadly pirates, raided from time to time, but the town just accepted it and focused on keeping their heads down and making money from trade and fish, as it's what they were best at. Now the other group in the town were known as Loyalists. Eleander Fireborn, who was an old knight of the Lord's Alliance, and Manistred Copperlocks, head of the miners' operation sent by the Lord's Alliance to try and expand the use of Saltmarsh and maybe look at turning it into a miners' town. Now stuck in between the Loyalists and the Traditionalists was another council member, young Anders Solmore, who had recently lost his mother Petra. Under Skerrin Wave Chaser's guidance, who was his butler, he was still using his mum's fleet to do well in Saltmarsh, and also seemed to be very charitable. Upon getting set up, an exotic hat vendor, Louisa, got into a dispute with Lady Tabitha, which ended in an attempted murder. The group would later find through some investigation that Louisa is a thief, gravedigger, and also has connections to the deadly pirate organisation called the Sea Princes. To mend reputations, The party agreed to check out an old haunted mansion. Whilst there, they found out the haunted mansion story was a ruse, and the mansion was actually being used to smuggle stolen goods to someone codenamed the Boss in Saltmarsh. The party quickly found out that the smugglers had connections to the Sea Princes that still had a big interest in Saltmarsh. A Sea Prince in the smuggler's den named Sambalay also recognised the party member Hector as the son of the great Lazarus van der Rijstiger. She explained that there's a huge bounty on Hector's father's head, and everyone is looking for him since he didn't return a book to a client. Instead, he decided to give it to someone else. The party captured Sambalay, but on the way back to town, saw the smuggler's ship signalling off coast. The party decided to deal with the problem immediately and made their way to the boat named the Sea Ghost. They assassinated the captain and first mate, as well as some others, and decided to take over the ship and take it back to Saltmarsh for investigation. There was also a group of 3 lizard folk that seemed very nervous about the situation. They said they had a deal with the captain for a mass number of weapons. They wanted the weapons, or alternatively, to be dropped off, but the situation got heated. One of the lizards jumped off the boat and was killed by dark creatures under the waves. The other frenzied lizards were killed when the boat docked by guards. For their efforts, the group was allowed to keep the boat and were pardoned for the earlier alleged assassination attempt. They were also allowed to keep the crew, as well as a tattooist sea elf called Oceanus. Jasper also briefed the captain of the guard, Eleander Fireborn, that he suspects Anders Solmor and Skerrin Wavechaser as being the boss. That's in connection with the Sea Princes, and has recommended for them to be monitored. There are also other people in Saltmarsh which have begun to form relationships with members of the Adventurers League. The magical item vendor Zendros, the druid Ferrin, the jailer Stonehorn, and some other new residents of Saltkeep, to name a few. Now, in the early days of the Adventurers League, the group were told of Lord Dawnwood's main reason for setting up the League, as well as his obsession for searching for books. He wanted the League to get adventurers to find more of a very rare type of book that himself, Fizban and Noxley had discovered. These special books had such divine power that they could teleport people to problems that needed to be solved. They had found out that when the problem was solved, the book would mysteriously reveal powerful torn pages of such godly powers that described the history of the world of Tyrell. The first slips talked of a pair being created, ultimately dooming the planet with natural disasters, which in turn would uncover the dangers of lost, forgotten places previously sealed in the depths of the planet. Dawnwood believed that finding more slips should uncover what this pair is, and ultimately should present a solution in how to save the world. The party backed up this thesis and began exploring 2 special books. One took them to an old wizard's mansion named Mordenkainen to uncover the history before teleporting back, whereas the other book held a quest that was more personal to the party member Lady Tabitha. A powerful entity named the Raven Queen said that she told her that they would come and that the Raven Queen should test the group. Who the she is that the Raven Queen was talking about is currently unknown. The Raven Queen said that she was going to test Lady Tabitha anyway, to see if the lady was worthy of gaining the power that is fitting for the Raven Queen's chosen champion. In the quest, which led the group to a dangerous place called the Shadowfell, the group learned that Sister Marguth had lived a tragic life and was resurrected by the Raven Queen, who had somehow modified her memory to protect her. She said that this was important for Lady Tabitha to learn. The group, after solving the problems in the 2 books, were then indeed rewarded with more slips, more clues of the history of Tyrell, shrouded in that superior, godly, divine energy. However, trying to put the slips together appeared cryptic and was also in a seemingly wrong order. With the group earning gold, finally having Saltkeep restored, their reputations in Saltmarsh healthy, a ship and some allies too, the focus had turned to the reputation of the Adventurers League in the whole of Faerun to try and draw in more adventurers for Lord Dawnwood's quest. Fizban recommended a place called the Yawning Portal, an inn in the great city of Waterdeep with a well in the middle. The well is infamous in that it's said there's dungeons, dangers and problems to be solved down there, not unlike the books, and that the vast majority of people don't return. Fizban said he would like to research the portal from afar, and also said if the group could go down and return, the fame of the Adventurers League would be told across all of Faerun. The group decided they would explore it, and met with an informant, a centaur barbarian named Lady Euphia of High Forest, who let the party know that some of her ancestors had gone down the well never to return. She was trying to learn from her ancestors to gain a power to attempt to save her home, the High Forest. Lady Euphia was keen to be involved with the party, to go down and explore the depths of the well. Durnan, the innkeeper, and the only person in recent memory to return from the well, seemed largely uninterested in the party, and said he would tell them his story if they managed to return. He'd tell them secrets if they'd matched his record of his journeys into the well. And finally, he said he would tell them everything if they managed to beat his record. Upon descension into the well, they saw writing on the stone walls that told them to stay on the path. The final passage of writing matched the handwriting from the magical torn pages emerging from the rare books. The passage said, "With the true God of duty gone, the duty to help those in need lies in others. Is this the path you choose?" Upon emerging from the portal at the bottom of the well, they were immediately confronted with an old man praying, "O Torm, God of duty and righteousness, please don't be gone. Heed my call, help me save my children." He thought the group were Torm's angels and asked for help to find his children, who had delved into a dangerous, long-forgotten place named the Sunless Citadel. Upon going down, they found and defeated a great evil that had been lurking in the deep depths, and were rewarded with healing apples, as well as a poisonous one. But more importantly, they had found that this Sunless Citadel was originally created for the worshipping of the platinum dragon deity Bahamut, as well as its metallic dragons. These dragons were spoken of as lawful dragons, who you could see as the opposite of the tyrant Tiamat and her followers. At the deepest depths of the citadel is where they saw it, an ancient mural of Bahamut surrounded by 7 golden dragons. The party couldn't help but be reminded of someone upon the realization that Bahamut and Fizban are the same. Fizban confronted them. He came clean about his main intention, being to oppose Tiamat and her followers all along, although he did truly intend to also help Lord Dornwood. Fizban didn't intend to tell them this early, worrying that they would deny the offer. He then gave them all the option, to run and leave the planet's fate to others, or to help deal with his other half, the Dragon Queen and Destroyer of Worlds, Tiamat. Upon emerging from the Yawning Portal to vast amounts of cheers, the innkeeper Durnan finally noticed the Adventurers League. He also had a golden slip for them at their arrival, creating the enigma: who is writing these slips and for what purpose? Durnan refused to say more for the time being. As he said, he swore he wouldn't until a group had proven themselves worthy. Outside of that huge multi-stranded narrative opening of Saltmarsh, Tiamat, the books and the Yawning Portal, there are also some mysteries with the characters that are currently being explored. These mysteries include Jasper's initial need for his own company, his prayers and what he intends to prove, Hector's crucial search for his father before others find their thief first, Himiko's missing beads, fox followers, including the one fox currently held prisoner in a dragon's hoard, Doric's haunting shadow that tells him not to adventure, and his violent reaction to curses, Lady Tabitha's foggy relationship with the Raven Queen and why she was cast out by the Yaunty of Flanness, and finally Cal's thirst to track down a legendary weapon and her current relationship with the magical item vendor Zendros. And that's it. With the stage set and the Adventurers League up and running, hopefully this video helps gather your thoughts and fully equips you on what's happened so far as we move into the second act and the more linear part of the campaign. Keep giving me feedback as we go along, and let me know if you have any questions or if you'd like a one-to-one about your character following the information in this video. I hope that you guys are excited as I am for exploring deeper into the Tyrannical Tales of Saltkeep.